In professional sports, we expect coaches to get fired for losing. It's the law of the jungle. But what happens when a coach gets fired for winning? On October 27, 2024, the Indiana Fever announced they were parting ways with head coach Christie Sides. This came just weeks after she had done what many thought was impossible. She took a franchise that had been lost in the wilderness for 7 long years and guided them back to the WNBA playoffs. She inherited a team that won only 5 games in 2022, and in just 2 seasons, she quadrupled their win total and broke the postseason drought. And for that, she was shown the door. This move sent a shockwave through the league and left fans asking one simple question: why? This is the story of a betrayal that the official press releases will never tell you. Today, we're going to connect the dots on what really happened to Christie Sides. We're going to filter out the noise and investigate the high-stakes gamble that led to her dismissal. We'll deconstruct the cryptic 7-word message she left behind and what it truly reveals about the situation she was in. And finally, we will uncover where she is now and what her new future looks like outside of the WNBA. This isn't just about a coaching change. This is about the immense pressure of the Caitlin Clark effect and what happens when the definition of success changes overnight. If you believe there's more to this story than the front office wants us to know, show us we're on the right track and smash that like button. It makes a huge difference and lets us know you want the real story. To truly understand the weight of this decision, we have to rewind the clock. Before Christie Sides, the Indiana Fever were, to put it mildly, at the bottom of the barrel. The franchise was caught in a brutal 7-season playoff drought that began after their last appearance in 2016. This wasn't just a slump, it was a period the media called the Dark Ages. They cycled through multiple coaches, and the team hit rock bottom in 2022 with a franchise worst 5-31 record. They were practically invisible in the league. Then, in November of 2022, Christie Sides was hired. On the very same day, the franchise won the WNBA draft lottery, securing the #1 pick they would use to select Aliyah Boston. Sides was brought in to be the architect of a full-scale rebuild, and the improvement was immediate and quantifiable. In her first season, the team's win total jumped from 5 to 13. And then, of course, came the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. With the addition of Clark in 2024, the team took another massive leap forward. They battled their way to a 20-20 record. For her efforts in guiding the team through that pivotal stretch, Sides was even named the WNBA Coach of the Month for August 2024. And most importantly, she officially ended the 7-year curse, leading the Fever back to the playoffs for the first time since 2016. Let's be perfectly clear on the facts here. She took a 5-win team and in 2 years turned them into a playoff contender while navigating the unprecedented media chaos surrounding the biggest star in the sport's history. By every objective measure, Christie Sides had delivered on the task she was hired for. She turned the franchise around. So why was she rewarded with a pink slip? This is where the official story begins to fall apart. So, what was the official reason given for this shocking move? In the team's press release, the Fever's new president of basketball operations, Kelly Krauskopf, said this, quote, "It is imperative that we remain bold and assertive in the pursuit of our goals, which includes maximizing our talent and bringing another WNBA championship back to Indiana." Now, for those of you who speak fluent corporate PR, you know what this means. This wasn't a punishment for past failures. The statement itself acknowledges Sides' leadership during an integral transition period. Instead, this was a signal of a massive strategic shift. The goal was no longer just improvement. The goal was now championship. And the front office decided Sides wasn't the person to get them there. But to find the real story, we have to look at what happened before that press release. The first domino fell in early October 2024, weeks before Sides was let go. The Fever announced a huge restructuring of their front office, bringing in veteran executives Kelly Krauskopf and Amber Cox to lead the organization. For any serious analyst of the game, that was the writing on the wall. There's a common wisdom in professional sports. A new front office regime will almost always seek to install its own hand-picked head coach. Media insiders and fan communities immediately began to speculate that Christie Sides was on the hot seat. The timeline confirms this wasn't a sudden decision. Sides was fired on October 27th. Her replacement, Stephanie White, was hired just 5 days later, on November 1st. Let's be real. No organization completes a thorough, high-stakes coaching search from interviews to negotiations in 5 days. It's just not possible. This speed points to one thing: a swift and premeditated move. The decision was already made. Sides wasn't fired because of a bad game or a tactical error. She was fired because she wasn't part of the new management's long-term plan. But while the front office was executing its plan, the most engaged fans, the ones who live and die with every game, were fighting a civil war online. On platforms like Reddit, in forums under threads about the firing, the fan base fractured into two distinct and opposing camps. Understanding this debate is key to understanding the pressure that was building inside the Fever organization. On one side, you had the Sides was a scapegoat camp. This group was frustrated and disappointed with the decision. Their argument was that Sides was a first-time head coach who had not only shown clear year-over-year improvement, but had also successfully navigated the insane media storm of the Clark effect while breaking the 7-year playoff drought. They saw her as a likable coach who was still learning and growing with her young team, and they believed she was sacrificed because a new front office simply lacked patience. As one user put it, no one has that patience for that nowadays, so she's out for a hopefully better instant fit. But on the other side, an equally vocal group argued that the firing was not only justified, but long overdue. This was the Sides was in over her head camp. Their criticism focused entirely on her perceived tactical flaws. They pointed to the team's ugly 1-8 start to the 2024 season, her unquestionable in-game adjustments, poor clock management, and what they called flawed player rotations. They believed the team's 20-20 record was achieved in spite of her coaching, carried by the sheer individual brilliance of players like Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston. They even accused her of throwing players under the bus in press conferences instead of taking accountability. One user summed this sentiment bluntly: her in-game adjustments just sucked. Two completely different views of the same situation. So, which one is right? Was Christie Sides a scapegoat who deserved another year, or was she a coach who was simply out of her depth? Let me know which side of the argument you land on in the comments below. There's no right or wrong answer here, but the debate gets to the heart of the matter. But no matter which camp you fall into, scapegoat or in over her head, both arguments orbit around the same massive gravitational force: Caitlin Clark. And this is where we have to wade into the murky waters of online speculation and address the elephant in the room. Throughout the 2024 season, a dominant fan theory emerged about a strained relationship between Christie Sides and her superstar rookie. Online commentators and self-styled narrative analysts would dissect their every interaction, pointing to timeouts where Clark looked disengaged or sideline conversations that were interpreted as heated arguments, presenting them as evidence of a rift. This all fed into what's known as the Kingmaker theory. The core belief is that Caitlin Clark's unprecedented value to the franchise, the ticket sales, the TV ratings, the merchandise, effectively made her the most powerful person in the organization. According to this theory, the front office, recognizing Clark as their primary asset, would never keep a coach who didn't have the full and complete buy-in of their generational talent. From this perspective, Sides' firing is the ultimate proof. She was removed not because she was a bad coach, but because she wasn't perceived as the perfect coach for Clark. Now, for the official record, when Clark was asked directly about her influence in the firing, she shut it down, telling Time magazine, quote, "I'm not actually the general manager of the team." But to paint this as a simple story of a coach who was at odds with her star player is to ignore some compelling evidence to the contrary. That was Christie Sides, the very coach she was supposedly in conflict with, putting her rookie point guard in the same category as Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Steph Curry. It suggests that whatever was happening on the court or behind the scenes, it was far more complex than the simple narrative of friction that many were pushing online. In the end, all the fan debates and all the online theories went quiet when Christie Sides finally broke her silence. But she didn't do it in a tell-all interview or with a fiery press conference. She did it with just 7 simple words. In a post on the social media platform X, Sides wrote, quote, "Leave it better than you found it." That's it. That was her only public statement on the firing. And for the narrative analysts watching, you know this wasn't just a throwaway line. This was a carefully chosen, deeply layered final message. So let's connect the dots and break down what she could have meant. On the surface, you can read it as a statement of pure grace and professionalism. It's a common coaching philosophy.
Talk about greats in this game. You know, the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants and the Steph Currys, they are putting her in that category, the Diana Taurasi's.
A mantra about making a positive impact wherever you go. In this sense, she's simply taking the high road, expressing pride in the team's turnaround and closing the book on her own terms. It's a classy exit. But you can also read it as a subtle yet powerful indictment of the franchise that fired her. Think about the subtext. By saying she left it better, she is centering her own accomplishment. She's reminding everyone of the 5-win team she inherited and the playoff contender she left behind. It's a way of silently screaming, "I did exactly what I was hired to do, and you got rid of me anyway." It's a final, quiet defense of her work and a subtle jab at the front office's decision. There's even a third layer. Was this also a message to her successor, a reminder of the new, higher standard of success she had established, and a warning about the immense pressure that now comes with the job? The brilliance of those 7 words is that they can mean all of these things at once. It was her final, quiet act of controlling her own narrative in a situation where she had lost all power. She defined her own legacy on her way out the door and left the rest of us to debate the meaning. But the story doesn't end with a mysterious tweet. After the dust settled, the question remained, what happens to a coach who gets pushed out of the league under such high-profile circumstances? Where does she go next? For months, there was silence. And then in June of 2025, we got our answer. It was announced that Christie Sides had accepted a new role as an assistant coach for the Canadian senior women's national team. While it's not a head coaching job in the WNBA, this is a significant and respected position on the international basketball stage. This move proves that despite the messy exit from Indiana, her reputation as a capable coach remains intact. It shows that other elite organizations recognized her skill and valued her experience, particularly in navigating high-pressure situations and developing talent. This new role represents a different path forward for her, one outside the intense, week-to-week scrutiny of the WNBA and away from the unique media circus that surrounds the Indiana Fever. It's a new chapter, and it's a clear statement that while her time with the Fever may have ended in a way she didn't deserve, her career in the sport she loves is far from over. So in the end, the firing of Christie Sides wasn't about one single thing. It was a perfect storm. It was about a new front office wanting to install their own leader for a new era. It was about the immense, market-driven pressure of the Caitlin Clark effect, which forced the franchise to slam the accelerator on their championship timeline right now. And it was about the ruthless, often unfair business of professional sports. Christie Sides wasn't fired because she failed. She became a casualty of a franchise in hyper-growth, a coach whose proven success at rebuilding was suddenly deemed not good enough for a team that was now expected to win it all, right now. Her story is a cautionary tale for what happens when expectations change faster than reality. So, what's your take on all this? We want to hear your final verdict in the comments. Do you think the Fever ultimately made the right call for their future, or was firing Christie Sides the first major mistake of the Caitlin Clark era? Let us know. If you appreciate this kind of deep dive analysis that goes beyond the headlines, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We're always connecting the dots to bring you the story behind the story. And finally, if you know another narrative analyst who'd find this story as compelling as you did, share this video with them so they can join the conversation.